Good morning, Blues. It's Stephen here on Monday the 19th of May. 2 days after City sadly lost the FA Cup final against Crystal Palace. I hope some of the wounds have healed a little bit now and time has been a bit kind to you. I'm reasonably relaxed about it. I was planning to do a 5 Things Learned video this morning. I didn't get time to do it yesterday for various reasons. I think I might record it after this video, actually. I saw this breaking news and thought I have to go live and talk about this because it's a little bit interesting. You know, it always is when you see a player set to join your club. So yeah, I thought I'd talk about this first, then I'll probably do a pre-recorded version of 5 Things Learned and put that up about mid-morning if that's good with you guys, because I think there's still lots to talk about from the FA Cup final. Yeah, absolutely still loads to talk about, but for now I think we've got more pressing concerns because there's a bit of pressing transfer news which I'm very, very excited by. Yeah, Sacha Tavolieri. So sorry if I butchered that, my friend. If you somehow watch this video, I apologise. I'm sure you wouldn't do much better with McInerney. No one ever does. Has reported that City have agreed terms with Tijjani Reijnders. I'll go over to the actual summary here. It says Tijjani Reijnders considers playing under Guardiola as a dream. As let his representative know, he gives priority to City despite competition from Real Madrid. Hugo Viana already has first agreements on personal terms. City plan to send a first written offer to AC Milan for Tijjani Reijnders this week and have already inquired about financial requirements for the players' agents. Even if 65 million euros is demanded, an agreement can be found around 50 million euros plus bonuses. So that's interesting. So it looks like, I've read more that apparently he's agreed terms and he basically wants to go to City. Absolutely. The relevance of this for me is that I think there's been a lot of worries about potential Champions League, spots and how it will affect our transfers. I actually think most of our signings will probably join regardless if we get Champions League football or not. We should obviously aim for it, obviously, 1,000,000,000%. But I don't think it's going to affect our plans too much. I think people like Cambiasso, Reijnders, gibbs-white, people like that Wesley fella, I think they're all going to sign for City anyway. I wouldn't be surprised if Florian Wirtz, who knows? There's a good chance Florian Wirtz might not sign for us even if we won the league, because it's not necessarily linked to that. I think obviously it will help with Florian Wirtz, but I don't think a lot of the deals that we could potentially do are going to be impacted too much because I think they all understand it's a bit of an off year and so on. And I think the significance here for Reijnders is that he's very much bought into the philosophy of Guardiola, and Guardiola still has that pull basically, despite a really poor year. And I'm going to talk about that in the 5 Things Learned video because I think Guardiola's had a baffling year, for me honest. I think he's had a really difficult season. Look, it can happen to everyone, but I think he's struggled and been erratic, I would say, at best with his decision making this season. Not that he doesn't get a right to be like that, but yeah. But either way, Reijnders is a guy who wants to play the Guardiola. He said it's a dream of his, and it looks like this is going to happen. And I think it's also going to happen for the club before the Club World Cup. I'm so relieved it's going to be busy because the next few weeks I'm going to be very, very insanely busy on a personal level for family reasons, put it that way. And I'm looking forward to just doing easy transfer videos where I just jump on and talk about transfers with you. I'm not having to use my brain too much. I can't wait for that. So I guess the point I'm making, I think it's going to be very busy. I think there's going to be so many transfer rumours all the time because I think City are going to be really aggressive in trying to secure some transfers before the Club World Cup starts. And this guy in particular could be one of them. I think Reijnders coming in. Look, after watching, City versus Palace the other day, the one thing that struck me is that we are absolutely lacking killers. People who know how to score goals, who enjoy scoring goals, who are fearless in front of goal. Look, I watched City fluff a few chances, and now the storm has settled a little bit. I remember I saved something on my phone and never got around to sharing it because I couldn't be bothered. I think yesterday I was just too busy being distracted by life as opposed to City versus Crystal Palace. But the stats from the game the other day, they were they're sort of telling. It was, let me find it. Can I find him anywhere? No, I can't. But basically, it was like City's XG was like 2.3 compared to their 0.6 or whatever, 0.7, and City had like 23 shots. Basically, City should have scored. There was no measure why City shouldn't have scored in that game. Like, we had the chances in the end, and I think Pep actually did semi-coach a good performance. I think we dominated. Like, it was a ridiculous amount of possession. We dominated the game. The issue is quality. And the reason I'm going to go full circle is because Reijnders is a goal scorer. This guy knows how to score goals. He has that like sort of young Gundogan composure in front of goal, from what I can tell. You look at Gundogan 3 or 4 years ago, clutch moments, man, like big goals in big moments when you need them. I don't know if Reijnders can do it in the big moments, but what I do know is he looks very composed in front of goal and he's got an eye for it. And the more people in midfield who can do that, the better. I am bored of watching our wingers fluff chances. I am bored of watching Akanji and Diaz pass it from side to side defensively. I'll get onto that later as well. Like, we need creators, people who will drop deep, get the ball, and dictate play. So one of those things where everyone's been very negative about, look, Warren here is just Warren's woke up in the wrong side of the bed. He said Pep will coach the flair out of him, make him a side-to-side passing merchant. After a few months, Pep will pretty sure will stop the burst forward and he'll glue to him in the park like a robot. Look, Pep doesn't stop Kovacic driving through the midfield. You know, Pep doesn't stop Nico Riley getting into the area to have chances, does he? And he's a left back. You know, he doesn't stop him doing that. You know, Pep doesn't stop people, you know, running at people. I think the players instinctively aren't good at passing a bit more direct, I will give you that. But I think a lot of that's on the players, actually. They need to be better at it. But you are allowed to get forward. And the thing is, we are shooting. We're just not doing enough of it. And I think we need people who want to score goals, not who want to be part of the system. Now, maybe a little bit of that's on Pep. Absolutely. I'm not going to entirely pass the blame onto him. But I think ultimately, you know, I look at the Crystal Palace game once again. It's like, we needed goal scorers now, and it struck me there's a lack of quality, a lack of ingenuity, and we did actually create, you know, some decent chances. And I think Reijnders coming in, what I can see of him, he's technically excellent. He's a good height, around 6 foot, so he's a big lad. Apparently he's not the most aggressive of hard-working players, but my theory in general anyway, for a Guardiola side, and also in football, is I want technical players always. Everyone's talking about, we need to get guys who can run and stuff. We do, yes, but not at the expense of technical ability. The technical ability should come first, always, because we keep doing that. We keep signing these players who aren't technically good enough, and then they waste 50 million, it goes down the drain. We have to sign technical geniuses, otherwise Guardiola's system just will not work. It has to be people who are obsessed with the ball, who can twist and turn and keep it. And play these lovely one-touch passes and move the ball quicker, because the game's getting slower and slower from City's perspective. And I think a lot of that is down to players who were once good getting older, so they just move slower. And trust me, I know a thing about getting older and moving slower. It happens to the best of us. And also players who just can't move it as quick or as smartly, you know, as City's previous standards. I mean, defensively, go back to, you know, it used to be Laporte and Cancelo and people like that on the ball trying to break down defences. Now it's Diaz and Akanji. It's like, it's not quite as good, is it, technically? So it's sort of an aside there. But Reijnders would fit into that category. And even if he's defensively isn't that great, I always prefer a guy who's a technical genius that you can turn into into defensively good, or you know, as opposed to a guy who's really good athletically and defensively and try and make them a technical genius. You can't do it, man. You can't teach someone that composure. Like, they are not. It's not possible. They're too set in the ways. You can't make someone who isn't a creative genius a creative genius. You just can't. They either are or they're not. You can make them a little bit better, but it's one of those things where it's easier to teach someone how to defend than it is easier to teach someone how to score goals or be a creative brilliant. It just isn't. It isn't true. You can't do it. Well, you can do it to an extent, but you can't. You get someone who's a 5 out of 10 creatively up to an 8 or 9. You can maybe get them to a 6.5. But you can make someone who's a 5 out of 10 defensively up to a 7, 8 quite easily, because that's just running and positional stuff. It's just physical stuff, you know, as opposed to, you know, magic. That magic's like not there, you know. So Reijnders, to me, even if he's not great defensively, we can teach him how to run. Gundogan and David Silva weren't defenders. De Bruyne wasn't a defender when they came, but Guardiola turned them both into, all 3 of them into 8s, you know, who worked really hard while also having great ability. Well, I'll talk about Nico Gonzalez, by the way. Nico Gonzalez, I'm not confused why he never played. No, because he's not played at all recently, so I was not even remotely confused. I didn't expect him to be involved at all. He should be played, I agree, but Guardiola, we'll get onto that in the 5 Things to Learn video, which I'll talk after this, but Guardiola is very much leading on experience right now, and the people that he trusts And I think it'll be a different story next season. I truly do believe it'll be a different story next season. But for right now, it's been baffling. But that's for a discussion later. There's a bit of Dani Olmo news. Sacha also said Dani Olmo, and Sacha Tavolieri, by the way, is a really reliable journalist. He's known for being very on it with Man City. So, yeah. I expect this is probably slightly true. It is interesting, though, because Dani Olmo's agent did just come out and say that it's not, he's not going anywhere and it's just rumours. But Sacha said Dani Olmo has been considered as an alternative option to Florian Wirtz by City, and the regular contacts have already taken place with buyers, the players and entourage. City will continue to work primarily on Wirtz and only return to Olmo in case of failure. I don't know about that, man. I don't know if this is true or not. Maybe it is. I mean, I think City are interested in Olmo. Does it mean it'll happen? No. Does it mean Olmo wants to go? I don't know. I don't think he would either. Look, Olmo is an ex-Barca lad who worked aggressively hard to get to Barcelona in the first place. I don't think he's going to go after one season, His injuries are up and down. Barcelona would probably ship him off in a heartbeat because they're ruthless and they want the money and so on, and they've got financial obligations that they struggle to fill all the time. But I think he would probably choose to stay, and I wouldn't blame him. So I don't think it's that at all. I don't think it's a case that, City would go. I think they would be interested in him, but do I think we'll get him? Not Wirtz, no. The Wirtz thing is interesting, isn't it? Like, it's massive. Look, it's funny, isn't it? Because Wirtz would be a game changer for this City squad. I want people who score goals, and both Reijnders and Wirtz are, 15 goals a season level players, and they're also technically excellent. They are magicians on the ball. With plenty of time left in their careers, there'd be a shot in the arm of a very tired midfield. I want gibbs-white too. I want them all. I want City to force the likes of Gundogan, Bernardo Silva to move on. I think this team needs an aggressive rebuild. I think Guardiola needs to be taken out of his familiar patterns. I think De Bruyne going, Bernardo going, Gundogan going, Ake going, John Stones going, Edison going. I think these are all good things, and it sounds wild because these are legends, but ultimately we've spent far too long relying on the same patterns and processes. And Guardiola, I can see, I look in his eyes, man, he looks like a guy. I'm probably just projecting here and talking absolute bullshit, but it feels like every now and then he stumbles on something that works. Newcastle, Gundogan and Nico Gonzalez worked very nicely together, but he can't resist the urge to go back to what he knows, and then he just seems to break up happy accidents all the time. Like, we found a backline of Nico Riley, Vardiol, Diaz and Nunes, and it worked nicely, and he broke it up, and Guardiola looks like he wants to bring his favourites like Akanji back into the side and so on, but I don't think it works as well. And Akanji isn't fundamentally a bad player, but he's always at the scene of the crime. And I still maintain, I think people were a bit too aggressively harsh in the goal. He was pretty tight on Eze, and you can't always be where you are. But one thing I can't deny is you can't always be where you are not. It's impossible to be at every position. But one thing I can't deny is Akanji always seems to be involved. And he just does. And at that point, it's like, well, if he's always involved, it's you start to ask questions, don't you? So, and I think Akanji being forced back in, whereas I think Nunes, look, Akanji didn't once go on the overlap and put a cross in. He was playing on sort of the right side. At least Nunes would do that. So, look, get these players in and get those players out, because I feel we are thrashing around at the moment doing the same thing. And look, and this guy coming in would be a cracking start. Guys, plenty of people watching. Please do me a massive favour. I know you were watching early on, various times in the world and so on, but some in the morning, some late in the evening. Give the video a like if you don't mind, and consider subscribing. There's going to be so much content coming. I am going to need your guys' support if possible on the videos. I'm about to be we're about to have a drastic change in the family life of the McInerney household, and I'm going to try and do videos where I can, but I might disappear very soon, very, very soon, for a while. So if I do, just wish me and my family all the best. Please give the video a like, basically, and subscribe if you're new, because it does help the channel, and I'm going to need the support. Not quite here yet, Pepper Squad, but imminent as possible, put it that way. Inconveniently imminent. That's what I'll say, and you can probably connect the dots with that. What I mean by that. But yeah, But yeah, please help support the channel. Please like the video and subscribe if you are new to the channel. Yeah, so this on to Reijnders. Look, Reijnders will be a cracking signing. I do think this is going to happen. It seems it seems nailed on to me, even being honest. I've got a feeling that this was almost certainly going to happen. According to Sacha as well over here on City Report, it says Pep believes that Reijnders is a perfect player to play alongside Rodri. He's convinced he could win the Premier League as early as next season with Rodri Reijnders midfield duo. I actually agree with that, by the way. I actually think Rodri and Reijnders would be a cracking midfield alongside each other. And then one of those things where it'll be a technically good midfield, a goal-scoring midfield, one that will, I think, will thrive under pressure as well. It'll be a really good midfield. And then, why do we buy Gonzalez? We bought Gonzalez for the next several years, mate. I think people keep talking about Gonzalez as if the last 5 or 6 months is going to define his career. I think we need to get out of that mentality. It's a weird season, and I'm not going to panic over any of the new signings until we have a reason to. If these guys aren't getting on the pitch still, and we've moved on past next season, and these guys are, like we've moved on Bernardo Silva or Gundogan or whoever, and they're still not getting on the pitch, then I'll panic. It's been frustrating, but it's a weird season, and Guardiola's, I think he's been struggling a little bit. But yeah, Reijnders, I think this is going to happen. Reijnders and Rodri, by the way, it is a nice partnership. And I've said it before. I think next season could be vastly different. Presuming, and there's a lot on this, presuming Rodri comes back anywhere near as good as he can be, I think he will be fine, weirdly. My gut's telling me he's going to be all right. Like, maybe he comes back washed. But I don't know. Something about Rodri. There's something about Rodri. I feel like he'll just come back. I think he's Rodri, and I think Rodri only knows how to be Rodri, and I think he'll be fine. Like, does anyone else get a feeling that Rodri's going to be all right? And maybe it's just me being naive here, but I've got a feeling Rodri's going to come back, and I think he's going to be good. And I think we'll see the difference in Nico Gonzalez, and the difference in the other players with Rodri back in the team, because he changes everything. Yeah, Rodri is that level good, and I think he'll be fine. Guys, just a quick video to talk about Reijnders. I think this will happen. Give the video a like, subscribe if you're new. I've got a 5 things learned video coming inside the next hour or two as well. I just wanted to do this one live and talk about it very quickly. Thanks for watching. I love you all loads. Difficult the other day, but plenty more to talk about coming very soon on the channel. And also there'll be a preview for tomorrow's game later on as well tonight. Bye-bye.